Have you ever walked away from church or left a religious community feeling empty, disappointed, or frustrated? Adults often point out that faith tenets get taught and we sing about amazing grace, yet we fail to experience its tangible lifelines when we need grace most. Without loving kindness in cherished relationships, and without feeling agape care that comes freely to each of us, we leave churches empty and in search of answers. Sensitive people ask, how does unconditional love work when life gets us down? What are we doing wrong that gives religion rather than relationships? What about our passion for things that heal and energize? I know it's painful to suffer emotional estrangement from people we love. Several of my siblings tragically took their own lives, unable to cope with the aftermath of a family that seemed impervious to emotional or mental well-being. A grace mindset offers a sense of worthwhile as it gives us tools to overcome worries and face fears and sidestep hopelessness over time. When we most need tangible and caring support, and before anxiety turns into anger, grace filters out disappointments and focuses on unconditional love. Without our awareness of unhealed emotions, time alone is not sufficient to restore health or build well-being. Grace-minded actions do. Furthermore, while most conflicts or challenges differ, healing similarities come embedded in tools we use to access grace. We heal as we grow to understand how progress builds bridges beyond boundaries or barriers. This book lays out tools and effective techniques developed and tested over 50 years of research and international experience related to human brains and divine grace that intersects transformative grace mindset approaches. Here's the kicker. A grace mindset approach which submerges each of us in loving kindness and unconditional care cuts through barriers of regret, blame, shame, and guilt on both sides of any broken relationships. With a grace mindset approach to problem solving, people feel heard and understood, and both sides of issues enjoy transforming challenges into change for improved results. Grace becomes the tone dial for emotional and mental growth. The book interactive exercises, tips, prompts, illustrations, and sample stories empower hope. Each page is designed to especially encourage those of us who have felt powerless to bring change to emotional obstacles we face. It differs from devotionals that show God's agency as it emphasizes access and awakening of infinite loving kindness we all possess, yet may miss. With access to grace, we can enjoy reconciliation with those we cherish, and with effort over time, we can renew all experiences with calmer and safer responses on both sides. We can expect to see results from the first pages. Even an animal with trust can grow closer if we make grace mindset effort to understand by listening, watching for their proclivities, and valuing their emotional lives with patience and kindness. This book invites us to heal the strife that societal and personal problems have caused, which leave us feeling anxious or hopeless in ways that default us to past tendencies for cynicism, denial, fear, and despair. The grace mindset tools in this book offer us courage to awaken to a more inner kindness, more acceptance, even when we make mistakes, and gives us more care for one another. We'll begin to place more hope in what matters and what lasts, trusting more in an eternal inner presence and love. With listening minds and emotions and a deep desire for healing to become the change in our suffering world, we ask what it's like to live without grace, and we often come up with personal and persistent stories of lingering guilt. With a grace mindset, we no longer expect others to fill and sustain our need for value and love. Instead, we learn how to access that agape love that does not depend on our ability to earn care, and it lasts for an eternity. We hear about grief that demands justice, is that absence of grace, and where we struggle alone without mercy. It's like being held in bondage for every wrong committed. It's misery without mercy. It's hatred, arrogance, entitlement, wrath, death, judgment, unworthiness, unkindness, and hopelessness, loneliness, judgmentalism, tied into one trap. What then is the core of a grace mindset that heals and equips us? Grace mindset, at its core, is a caring and compassionate way of thinking. It helps us engage loving kindness that buoys us up in difficult times. It relies on the unique force of unconditional love we already possess and helps us to access and awaken that inner kindness at any time. When we engage grace-filled strategies such as genuine kindness, we begin to recognize emotional cues, diffuse disappointments, and access a kinder, healthier, more agile brain. We gain the ability to care deeply for ourselves, and we accept others' mistakes through our grace-filled filters of empathy and compassion. It's all about caring more, because the fruits of the Spirit live in and flow to heal us first and help others solve their emotional issues as a result of our inner healing. You may remember 9 fruits of our Spirit from teachings in a faith community. In this book, we will enjoy a lived experience of fruits in grace filters that heal and help us resolve problems that otherwise cause us to suffer. These fruits can literally become our daily experience as they include inner and extended love, gentleness, joy, peace, patience, kindness, fruitfulness, generosity, and self-control. In these pages, we'll explore new ways to rebuild broken relationships and sustain tangible loving kindness for ourselves and others. Interactive exercises give us grace-filled tools to boost inner care and experience compassion that transforms trauma into self-appreciation and empathy into infinite worth for all humans. With practice of these tools over time, we'll experience healing from even the most horrific past mental and emotional wounds. We'll grow equipped to help ourselves and others reach immeasurable dreams while laying stronger foundations upon which to build lifelong healing bridges through loving kindness as our stepping stones. An example of grace mindset would be our ability to see and state genuine goodness to be thankful for in others and ourselves, rather than complain and feel upset about flaws, failures, or frustration that life brings. So rather than feel sorry for our situation, maybe when alone on a holiday, we might ask instead, what can I do today that interests and excites me? Rather than speak back with a knee-jerk reaction to another person's anger, we may wonder, what is this person really going through today that's not working well? And how can I help through core care and encouragement? Rather than give up when we feel overwhelmed, a grace mindset would ask ourselves, how can this situation, problem, or project become a unique adventure broken down into manageable pieces that draw on my inner kindness capacity and build on my interests to resolve it? Delio may sum it up with the words, every creature is born out of a love of God, sustained in love and transformed in love. Every sparrow that falls to the ground is known and loved by God. We see that in Matthew 10:29. Whichever side we frequent will have new tools to improve as we begin to interact with grace mindset as a guide. A thwarted side may be fearful because we think they'll criticize us. We move to flourish in a grace mindset that says we celebrate because there are unique things that I can usually do well to overcome fear. On a thwarted side, we may expect and crave others' approval, but when grace mindset comes on board, we have the autonomy of inner kindness that heals and sustains us. Without grace, we may despair that it'll never get better. With grace, we hope because loving kindness adds strength and growth. Without grace, we're bored. There's nothing fun to do. With grace, we're curious because interesting adventures we can foster today. Without grace, we're sad because we crave what we cannot attain. With grace, we're joyful because inner love is sufficient to keep us happy. Without grace, we're anxious because this situation stresses us. With grace, we're calm because mistakes become healthy stepping stones forward. Without grace, we're miserable. Nothing goes right. With grace, we're grateful because we're thankful that inner love adds appreciation. Without grace, we judge. We see others as self-centered. With grace, we're merciful and we wonder, how can we show unconditional love? Without grace, we're envious because we think we deserve what they have. With grace, we're a cheerleader, thrilled to see others succeed. Without grace, we're disappointed, thinking things usually turn out bad in the end. With grace, we are accepting because we accept it may not be perfect, but it's our best. Depending on what judgmental problems we face, we can choose to use and repeat grace mindset tools to shore up and sustain our inner value. No wonder we crave revenge to make others pay for what they did to hurt us when we fail to access and live grace. Less known are tangible benefits of living ordinary lives with extraordinary favor and delight because we access grace. For many believers, a theoretic expression of grace comes through God's Word that states, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son of the Father, full of grace and truth." The Gospel of John in chapter 1 and verses 14 to 17 assures us that we all receive grace upon grace through Christ. But that's God's narrative, though. This book is our life experience if we live within grace's story. As wonderful as it is to be graceful with people instead of trying to get back at them, endless books have been written to help us know how God's crucifixion covers our wrongdoing and offers amazing grace. This book is not about that awe-filled story, great as it strikes most believers. Instead, it's about extravagant human equipment that allows us to access grace in a way that changes our lives from frustrating to flourishing on a daily basis. It's about what grace looks like on a day when we feel bored, sad, anxious, regretful, tired, angry, panicked, overwhelmed, or envious. How, for instance, can we begin to end those sad feelings evoked by estrangement, say, from a person we love? Even A. Milne and his wife suffered a terminally fractured bond with their son, Christopher Robin, for whom those much-loved children's books were written. We'll see how grace creates space to look beyond the pain and rejection parents or adult children suffer in order to find compassion and empathy to see situations from each other's view. It's similar in any conflict. Grace must be accessed to right wrongs and lived to diffuse blame. I remember a graduate student whose beliefs I still don't know, who suggested that Israel and Palestine will benefit peace only if Israel sees the situation from Palestinian views and if Palestinians see the situation through Israelis' perspective. Each page of this book is a call to personal, grace-minded opportunities that infuse kinder spaces, yet come with no traditional intent of converting others to anything. Each page will attempt to show how we can live grace daily, in spite of difficulties, letdowns, or failures that described more rule-centered church doctrine than felt loving kindness we experienced in our past. This book is meant to help us internalize kind assumptions about people around us, beliefs that are judgment-free and non-critical. Such a grace mindset fosters growth of friendship and love that lasts throughout tough times. My son-in-law shows enormous visible images of this kind of grace. Neil seems to internalize uniquely kind assumptions that allow others wiggle room to grow and risk making mistakes without losing his favor. As we each use and develop new filters such as those listed in this book, a grace mindset becomes our filter to see goodness and welcome growth in ourselves and others around us. Have you experienced such unconditional favor that offers a filter into daily goodness without criticism and complaints? First, we access such favor, and then we can demonstrate strength and pass it along as grace from ourselves to others, so they too can see its enormous treasure. Read the following 9 chapters to see how we can overcome boredom, sadness, anxiety, regrets, tiredness, exhaustion, anger, panic, overwhelmed feelings, envy, and huge disappointments. Then let us know how grace helped you to live a life of loving kindness and eternal benefits.